What's up YouTube, and welcome back to the Place for Artists. Today we are doing something that no channel has ever done before. I mean, someone might have done it, but I've never seen it done before. But welcome to the Battle of the Medium. So we're going to be testing watercolors. Say hello, sheepy. And markers. For anyone who is literally born yesterday and doesn't know what Copic markers are one of the world's best alcohol markers in existence. But what makes them so special, you might be asking? It's the revolutionary brush nib. So commonly compared to just being like using watercolors, they have a fantastic range of colors from vibrant to earthy. But the Copic markers do come with a very expensive price tag. For all 358 colors, they go on average for about $5 a piece. So for a whole set, you're looking at about $1,700, almost $1,800, and that is a lot.
Oh my God!
Now you might be asking yourself, why does the brush even matter on the marker? Why not just use a bullet nib or a chisel tip? Well, the brush is supposed to make blending and getting an even gradient superior to any other marker or brush marker out there. So let's put them to the test. The first major upside to coloring with these markers was the ability to build up a single color. The first stroke is not full opacity of the color, so this allows you to get a great variation in color. Now, the biggest downfall, the brush is not accurate, and this isn't to say that the nib is poor quality, but the color spreads much further than the nib is placed. This means that the color bleeds horribly, so it's hard to get a clean edge when building up colors and trying to achieve an accurate stroke. I had to constantly worry about the colors bleeding and trying to color near the edge, but not quite on the edge because I didn't want it to go past the edge. The brush allows me to get nicer gradients, I can build up the colors, and it is really nice to work with for getting fine and large detail. But it also squeaks pretty bad, and they don't give a very even color payoff over a large area. So the benefit of building up the opacity is nice, but getting an even color wash is not. While they are fun to work with, do they actually compare to the original watercolor brush? The biggest advantage that I think Copic brush has over the original watercolor brush is the amount of time it takes to create the art. While the Copic one took about 27 minutes, my watercolor piece took about 48. So you can save about 50-45% of the time when you are using Copic markers because you do not have to wait for layers to dry. But besides having to wait between layers drying, I had a whole lot more control over where my color went. This means that where I laid my brush is where the color stayed. It didn't bleed past where the brush stroke was. When it comes down to actually the quality and the control that you get with a real brush, it just does not compare to a real watercolor brush. Also, when I think about it, I was just thinking, how much does these watercolor brushes cost versus the price tag that comes with a brush alcohol marker? Not including just the color pigments, just when you take a marker and you add that brush nib to it, it makes it almost twice, if not 3 times more expensive. So when I think about it, the 5 round brushes I'm using cost $11. Now, a single Copic marker costs anywhere from $4 to $8, depending on where you get them. And the paint I'm using only costs 20 bucks, 22 I think exactly on Amazon. So the affordability level to get started with Copic markers, including a sketchbook and pencil and eraser and all that, you're looking at about $329 for just the 72 set that I have. When it compares that to the watercolor set I use, it was only $22, and adding on all the other supplies, it's gonna cost 71 bucks to get started today. But in my opinion, the Copic brush tip just does not compare to the watercolor brush at all. It's not worthy to compare Copics to watercolors because with watercolors, you get a set amount of colors and you can mix any color you need out of that. You get a lot more control with your brush, and you can control how pigmented things are. You can build up your layers. You can do everything brush nibs do and more. But saying all of that, they were still really fun to paint with. I can definitely see why using brush markers is a lot more fun than using bullet nibs because they do give you a lot more versatility. And I'm gonna give them an overall 7 out of 10. They don't lay down color really even, and they do squeak pretty bad, so I cannot give them a higher score. If you want to get started with alcohol-based markers, you should check out this video here where I explain to you the best and the cheapest alcohol markers on the market. And if you ended up loving how watercolor sounds, you can check out the Battle of the Palette video here where I'll break down the ins and outs of watercolor palettes.